Hi, I'm recording this demo video in lieu of Zoom. If you had turned into Zoom today like my sixth graders did, um, you would have seen a demonstration of a glass bead being made. Today is Wednesday, April 29th. So I'm going to have to cancel my Zoom sessions for the rest of the day because right now power's out in New Bern and I'm running off the battery I have on my computer, and hopefully I'll be able to upload this to Google Classroom via a hotspot from my phone. So I found a little quick workaround, but I know it's not going to work as a permanent patch to get through. So I wanted to make sure that you didn't lose any educational content today. Any questions you have regarding this demo or via class, again, as always, you can email me at my first name dot last name at cravenk12.org. But right now, or you can even go onto your school website and find my email. And if you're having power issues, hey, then we didn't miss anything. You can make up this time later. So we're going to make a glass bead today together. And to do so, I just want to say this is not something you want to try at home because the equipment that I'm using is not stuff that you can easily find at a hardware store or at a store with tools. This is stuff that is specially ordered and designed to do this kind of artwork from an art supplier and jewelry supplier, and it requires adult supervision. So this is something I've always wanted to demonstrate for you in middle school. It's just very hard to do with using a blowtorch and fire and glass, because the glass can do things, especially at the breezy day it is today, so it very might likely do this today, which is sometimes it'll get hot in one section, a cold breeze will hit it, and it causes a fracture because of the science of glass. And it kind of did that today, but I was able to save it and kind of remelt it back on. But it's challenging on a breezy day like this. So you might get to see some glass shards explode off the pieces. Sometimes they've hit me in the face. I know that sounds scary, but I've been doing this a long time. The very first things I ever taught was glass blowing at college level as an adjunct member. And that's kind of one of the things that made me realize that I wanted to be an art teacher because I really enjoyed it. And I love college students too. I feel like college students and middle school students have a lot in common. So I don't want to make this too long because I know you've got other classes going on. I don't want to overwhelm you, but it is kind of fun. All right, this is called a mandrel. It's basically a piece of steel. Now, hot glass likes to stick to itself. It also likes to stick to hot metal, especially steel. It does not like to stick to cold metal. It does not like to stick to things that'll kind of like tear apart. So what I do to make sure it doesn't stick to this permanently, making like a hair tie stick or a plant decoration, is one of the things I'll do is I'll put what's called bead release on it. And if you can see, the bead release is kind of like blue colored, and it's like a powdered type of clay mixture with other chemicals mixed in that won't fuse together when hot. Kind of like when we put clay in the kiln, we're fusing that clay together so it doesn't come apart again. Well, it has to hit a certain temperature. The temperature of the torch is not going to get hot enough to do that to this clay, but it is hot enough to melt the glass. So dealing with differences of temperature, you can control, using science, you can control what you do with your art. Now, I have a bead that I made this morning with sixth grade, and I've already released the bead from it by breaking off the bead release, because this powders and flakes off even after being in the torch. See how it's like powdery and muddy, and it kind of dissolves? That's because it's not fused together. It did not do what's called vitrification. Vitrification. Now that is not a middle school word, but is definitely a science word that artists use both in clay and in glass. So a lot of science is used in this. And another thing is, with that science, is understanding how to use it so you have control over what you're doing. So right now I'm dipping these mandrels into the bead release just to get them a little bit thicker. And to hold them, I put them into a little glass full of rice so they don't knock into each other. So that's kind of my low-tech stick holder. I usually have a block of wood with holes drilled into it that they fit in, but I couldn't find that, so I had to come up with something really quick. So sometimes you have to be creative, not just in your artwork, but in your solutions for making things. So another cool fact about science and art, especially when it comes to glass, is this material right here. Now I know it looks like a cotton blanket or padding, but it isn't. It's closer to kind of like roof insulation that you would have in a house, that pink stuff that's real itchy. Don't touch it, don't play with it. It's like a type of fiberglass. But this fiberglass was developed by a glass artist in the 60s. And he developed it because this organization asked him to. And this organization asked him to develop it so they can make spacesuits for the first astronauts in the United States. So they needed a flexible material that would block radiation and insulate and block heat and high temp. So this is all made out of glass, even though it's flexible. It's like a fiber. So it is a kind of fiberglass, but it's very fine. And so not only did NASA use it, but artists use it. So as I said, he was a glass artist, and artists now use it for kilns. So it's kind of like a modern material and innovation that an artist made to help contribute to the scientific community. So artists and scientists work together more than people realize. Now, like I said, it is a breezy day, so you might see me move my head. That's me literally trying to block the breeze to kind of preserve the glass. I'm doing a lot of talking now. Once I turn this on, I'm not going to talk too much because the torch does get loud, and I want to concentrate on what I'm doing. Safety is a big thing. I'm wearing jeans. I'm wearing closed-toe shoes. The adult supervision is myself. Again, this is not something to try at home. This kind of torch head you cannot just go out and buy. It is specifically designed to introduce more oxygen safely into the gas as it comes up, and the higher oxygen content raises the temperature of the flame. So it makes a bigger flame, and it makes a more concentrated flame that's hotter. And the glass is not just like beer bottle glass or broken glass that you would find on the side of the road. So please don't just go find some glass on a lighter. You're just going to get cut and burned. Don't. This glass is designed where it's able to melt at a lower temperature, and some of the colors are a little finicky, more likely to explode because they kind of push those levels. So I have to start it way up high at the end of the torch where it's just going to barely warm up the glass, and if I go too quickly with it, not moving it, but heat it too quickly, it can crack. And a lot of times it likes to crack, so I have to kind of watch for those cracks. Sometimes I hear a little pop, and you'll see me kind of looking, and I might move it away a little bit or move it in or change how I move it. That's so I control it so it doesn't exactly crack all over the place. Once it starts to change color here and soften or look like it's turning orange, sometimes it looks like it's turning brown or black, and it starts to kind of move, I can move it down further into the flame. And then what I'll do is I'm rotating it this entire time, just by spinning it with my fingers. I'll form like this little ball of glass on the end. It'll be orange and melty and gooey. It's kind of like honey. If you had cold honey in the fridge, it's the consistency of that. And then I'll take one of our mandrels here with that bead release on it, and I'll turn that as well, and I'll turn it away, and that glob will wrap around it. I have to heat this up a little bit too so it wants to stick to it. Again, I'm going to stick it to where that bead release is, not the actual metal, or it will be stuck there permanently. And that's because the pores of the metal open up, it grabs onto the glass, and when it cools down, it contracts back. Look at all those science words. Contracts back and doesn't let go so that it bonds. Kind of like glaze bonds to ceramics, that same porous surface. So I've got a variety of colors. I've got some other tools here. And I've even pulled this morning in our 6th grade Zoom, I pulled this filament of glass. You can see it kind of blowing around. It's like hair thin. Yes, that's glass blowing around. I know that sounds a little crazy, but when you pull it thin enough, you get these filaments. And maybe if I have a darker background, it'd be easier to see. Yeah, you can see it better against my shirt. But you see it's like a hair-like filament that blows around. Well, that's from, I was using this is called a stringer, to draw onto the hot bead, and it's so thin it melts so quickly that I can draw little marks and lines. And that's how I got some of the swirls on this bead. Alright, so I'm going to put my safety goggles on. I'm going to get my striker. This is something that when you get into high school, if you take chemistry, you'll probably deal with. In fact, the first time I played with glass, I got in trouble. It was in AP chemistry in high school. It was because we were making glass tools, and I helped other students make their tools because they were not having good luck. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I picked it up quick, And then I started taking scraps and making flowers and things. And I didn't understand the annealing process, so my teacher was like very concerned that it wasn't going to cool right and it could explode, or I would take it home and cut myself. So he was doing the safe thing, but I got in trouble. Yeah. But now that I know more about glass, I kind of do that for fun, for a living. But again, as an artist, you have to learn the safety of these things. I've done a lot of cool things in high school just by being a responsible student. I got the opportunity to work with bronze casting and pouring molten bronze. I've taken classes on welding, and even in my college level, when I first started college, they didn't want freshmen doing glass work or taking a glass class because it was so hot and dangerous, and they were just pioneering it at the time. But I was so responsible and volunteering in there consistently that they said, okay, come on, you can help out on the open studio portions. We're going to teach you anyhow. So I got kind of a jump. So by being a responsible student, showing by your actions, not just in one class, but all your classes and how you are every day, you can always make choices to get better with that. It gives you opportunities. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is get my torch lit. Then I'm going to start heating one of these rods of glass. I might pick a different color now that I'm thinking about it. And then we're going to get making a glass bead here. Okay. I'm going to go with, this is a pretty blue. No, I'm going to do this clear blue. So this is a clear blue. You can see it's kind of transparent. That other blue I have is opaque. Opaque glass tends to be a little bit more temperamental because of the chemistry in it. Sometimes it's got more stuff in it that doesn't want to melt as much. So I'm going to use this because it's so breezy out. And that should help reduce, not eliminate, but reduce potential issues. See the wind and breeze going everywhere? There's pollen going everywhere. I'm sneezing my head off today, and there's stuff falling on my computer. Okay, so I'm going to turn the torch on. Again, it's going to be loud, and I'm going to try to point the camera so you can see. You can also kind of see my garden in the background. All right, here we go. This always makes me jump. I don't care how many times I've done it or what volume of gas and fire I've worked with, because I've worked with large volumes. It always makes me jump. That's just how I am. So I turn the gas on. There we go. See? I jumped. Always. Okay. So I'm going to fine tune my torch down. And it's harder to see during the daytime. It's a lot easier at night to see different parts of the flame. But there are parts, so I can do it almost more by feel during the day. Blocking the wind. Now I can tell the blue is starting to get warm because it almost gets like a green look to it in the flame. And what's cool is the colors can change while you work them. And when they cool back down, sometimes it changes in ways you didn't expect, and sometimes it goes back to the original color. So right there, I'm starting to see it's turning yellowish green at the tip. And eventually it'll probably turn orangish. On a breezy day, I kind of stab into it rather than way back and forth. That way it kind of heat tempers the rest of the rod a little bit. And then right when it's starting to soften up, I can bring it down into the flame. You have to be able to use both hands to do this. One hand to work the glass, the other hand to work the mandrel. The mandrel is that steel rod you wrap the bead around. And so there, I got a nice little glob of molten glass. Taking my mandrels, temper it up here. So I have to use physics too to control the glass. The more you work with physics, the easier it is. The more you work against physics, the harder it is. So I have to understand gravity and centrifugal force and chemistry and I work with physics, it makes it easier for me to do what I want to do. All right, so I'm going to start to attach it. And that's the start of a bead. You can see how it's changing color. I'm going to try to work the glass in the flame, but not the manual. And that takes practice. And I'm going to switch hands. I'm going to use a stringer. Watch I don't stick my fingers into the bead. And you can see I've got a little dot. A glass on it. So I'm going to put some dots on it. Because it's so windy, I don't have as much control as I normally would on a calm day. Alright, so that's my bead. It looks orangish, but when it cools down, it's probably going to go back to a bluish green. So I'm letting it cool a little bit at a time and then reheating a little bit. And the reason for that is I'm evening out the pressure. If I let it cool at different rates, meaning if the inside stays hot, because it's insulated, it's in the center, and the outside cools too quick, it creates too much pressure on the outside, on the inside, and it can explode later on. So I don't want that. So this tempers the bead by taking it in and out of the flame and letting it cool gradually. Also look for how shiny it is. The shinier it is, the cooler it's getting. Let it cool down. And then I'm going to put it into the fiber blanket so it cools even slower, because that'll insulate it so the heat from the bead kind of evens out. As I was saying when the torch was going, I don't know if you could hear me or not, but I don't want to put it in too hot or it sticks to the blanket. But if I let the outside cool quickly and the inside's still hot, it's like squeezing something where there's not enough room, almost like a balloon popping. But if they can kind of even out and cool at the same rate, then that's called annealing. It lets it come down slowly together. So the slower you cool the glass, the less likely it's going to explode, and the more the pressure has chance to kind of even out. And I know that's kind of more advanced chemistry and physics, but it's a lot more exciting and visual way to think about it than just reading words on a piece of paper. And everybody learns differently, so if this helps you in a science class, that's cool. I just like being able to apply science as an artist, and it helps me also learn more about science because it gives me visuals to think about that I've applied in creating art. So I'm going to let that sit there, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And again, email me, and I'll be checking intermittently when I can get a hotspot or whenever power comes back on. The trash is getting collected at least. So, all right, have a great day. Bye.